In yesterday's lecture, we discussed about that architecture development method, which is nothing but ADM, right? So now we will see all the different phases of ADM. But before that, we just need to know about the some overview of all these phases. So that's what we will discuss today first. Then we will start one by one in detail. So I will go to my GitHub repository. Right. So yesterday, as I explained that we are having total these 10 phases, starting from preliminary, then architecture, vision, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then the requirement, right? So means you can, if you are in phase E or D and you want to, update something in the previous phases, so that can be possible. Now, next is that uh, let us talk about these phases one by one. First, let us talk about the preliminary phase. Not in detail, just an overview. So this is the phase which creates the architecture capability of an organization, right? So what it is doing? It is creating the architecture capability of the organization. So what does it mean? So it means we are preparing and initiating the activities that are required to create the architecture capability. Or you can say this is the phase where you are getting the base to create your architecture roadmap. Okay. So here what we are doing, we are preparing and initiating the activities that are required to create the architecture capability or capabilities. So this is very much uh, the phase where you are customizing the TOGAF framework. The TOGAF framework. Here, what we are doing, we are defining the architecture principle. Uh, Capabilities for the organization point of view, right? And this capability is basically to define the architecture principles. Then uh, we are having phase A, which is the architecture vision phase. So here in phase A, right, in phase A, so this is the, you know, this is the phase where enterprise architect spending a lot of time, right? Because this is the architecture vision. So you need to see that how my architecture or architecture roadmap will look like. So that is the architecture vision. So you design the complete architecture here by considering the component of phase B, C, and D. We have discussed about the uh, those domains. So B, C, and D, these phases basically refer to those, it refers to those domains. So B indicates business architecture, right? C indicates the information system architecture, which is nothing but it is the combination of data architecture. One second. Uh, so one second. Looks like there is a mess. Okay, I thought he has joined. All right. So right. So phase C, B is the business architecture, right? So you can say the implementation of that which we have discussed in phase in domain means business domain and the data or application or technology domains. So that we will do it here now. So B is the business and business architecture. C is for data and application, data and application architecture. Right? That architecture. And phase D is your technology architecture where you will decide which technology we need to work. Okay. So B, C, D, they are basically to support the whatever you are defining in phase A. Phase A you define on the basis of the capability. Capability is nothing but the business goals, business scenarios, right? On the basis of the requirement, right? So you are basically in the BCD, you are uh, you are creating this baseline, right? In the business architecture, you develop everything here on the basis of baseline and target architecture. Okay, and it should be supporting the phase A, right? So if you want any changes, you need to go back to the phase A and then you need to make the changes, right? Right. Now, next is the phase E, which is opportunities and solution. So here you are not implementing anything, but you are looking for opportunities and solutions, right? So what does it mean? So it means that you conduct some initial implementation planning. In phase E, you are conducting some initial implementation planning. So you are not implementing, but you are identifying the delivery, uh, we call it delivery vehicles for the architecture which is defined in the previous phases in B, C, and D. So you define that, and if you see that that solution is appropriate or not, or that solution we need to implement it or not, right? So those things are basically you are checking in phase E. Phase F is the migration planning. So in phase F, what we are going to do, it will describe that how to move the baseline to the target architecture. So it will describe that thing. Okay, uh, how the baseline. So you can say it will be your implementation plan, right? Or you can say it is the detailed implementation plan and migration plan. So that we will see in phase F, right? Now in phase G, in phase G, what we are doing? Implementation governance. So what is that? Implementation governance is nothing that you provide an architectural oversight to the implementation, right? So this is the governance where the implementation is approved and implementation is applied. Approved plus applied. Okay. So it provides the architectural oversight of the implementation. In phase H, which is a change management system, right? So here you will establish the procedures for managing your change to the new architecture. So uh, in phase H, we are basically doing the change management, right? So now the change management process. So in the change management process, you need to you need to establish the procedures how to make the changes to the architecture, right? So that is basically the change management, right? So now, right. So these are the, you know, uh, different phases in the ADM, right? Now, what will happen here? Each phase, for example, you are in phase preliminary phase. So it will generate one output, which will become the input, which will become the input for the another next phase. Okay. So, so it will become the input for the, so it will become the input for the, uh, so it will become the input for the next phase. For example, you get the requirement and those requirement becomes the input for the architecture vision. So now you create a architecture roadmap, you design it, that will become the input for the B, for the C, for the D. So you need to define the output, what you are expecting into that particular phase, and that will become the input for the next phase, right? So do you have any question?
No, no. Fine, so far.
Yeah. Okay. Now, give me 1 minute, just 1 minute. Yeah. All right. Now, uh, let us talk about few more things which are basically related to the ADM only, which is called artifacts and deliverables. Okay, so let us talk about that one. So what is artifacts? So
That- So
the
like the documentation, proof
yeah,
of
yeah,
concept.
yes, that work architectural work product is the basically the artifact. That's correct. So in the ADM artifacts, so in TOGAF, the architectural work, architecture work product, okay, which describes aspects for enterprise architecture. Okay, so when we are in TOGAF or in enterprise architect point of view, so artifacts we define into different, uh, you can say classifications. So artifacts, they are classified as catalog, they are classified as matrix or matrices, they are classified in the form of diagrams. Now, if I talk about catalog, so catalog is nothing but there will be an um, list of things like business capability catalog. So if I just mention that how business capability log will be look like. So business capability catalog. So here we will create a table. So in that table, so in this table, we will have some columns. So it can be different. So I'm saying ID, say business um, capability, and category. So this is my catalog. So it means it will have the data something like you are having business capability 01, which is CRM, which is customer relationship management, and category is say sales and services. Similar way, I'll say uh, ID2, which is defining the risk management. So this is for, say an example, support, right? Like that, you will create a catalog for your business capability, which is nothing but the list of the things, right? So this is one of the artifact type. Another is the matrix. Let me clean this. So let me just see. Okay. So next is the matrix. So how matrices are basically defined. So again, it is the form of table, but it shows the relationship between uh, you can say like capability and organization relationship. So that we show in the form of matrix. Whereas in the case of the catalog, we are simply defining a particular entity. But here it is a relationship between two entities. So if I say a matrix which is for capability and organization matrix. Okay. So in that case, it means I need a row and column where row represents anything like business capability, right? And organization units is represented in the form of column. So organization unit like human resources or maybe IT, maybe sales and marketing, right? Right. So now here, for example, you are having a business capability which is project management, right? So project management is not related to HR. It is related to IT. It is not related to the sales management, right? Now, for example, learning, learning management, it is related to, say, an example, HR. It is, you can also put the percentage, maybe you can say 0%, some percent means 20%, it is related to this, or you can also give the coding like green, red, yellow, right? So that kind of coding also you can apply into the matrix, which is representing that whether it is how much it will be impacted, right? So IT, for example, this is required. For sale, it is not at all required. So why I'm saying that coloring system? See, for example, if you say uh, green color here, right? So it means it is required. It is 100% required. And for sales, if I say it is red, right? So if it is red, so it means not at all it is required. Not at all it is related to sales part, learning management. Right? So this is how we can represent artifact in the form of matrix. Next is the diagram. So third is the diagrams. So when we are talking about the diagrams, so this is nothing but it. These are the picture of things. So right. So whenever you are presenting any use case or any organization unit, right? So you want to show it in the form of diagrams. Like for example, organization map, right? So in the organization, you are saying there is a CEO, right? And there is a CTO who is reporting to CEO. Okay, there is a particular business unit, right? Organization unit one. Consider this as accounting, and who is this? Uh, what are the different departments into that? So now here, what I'm doing, I'm creating these, you know, I'm creating these diagrams to represent my artifacts. Okay, so this is diagram. So artifact is work product, right? So artifact is work product, right? So right, right, and right. So which is basically describe the aspects of the enterprise architecture, right? And this is basically three types. One is catalog, which we have understand now. Uh, catalog. Right? First is catalog. Second is uh, matrix, which is the relationship between two units or two things like capability and organization. And third one is diagram. Do you have any question related to ADM artifacts? Are you good? All right. Somehow I'm not able to hear you. One second, let me see the settings. Yeah. So are you able to hear me properly? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So, right. So now, uh, let us talk about the So this is artifacts. So do you have any question related to artifacts?
Matrix, diagram, and what is the other one?
Catalog, catalog.
Catalog. Catalog, right?
Yes, yes. So catalog,
Catalog is
for example, you want to represent the business capability, right? So you are saying we are having CRM system which is related to sales and support. Okay, we are having, say an example, some um, other like for example, if you say that I'm having a accounting system, risk management system, which is having a category. So you create a table for that, right? Where you will say that this is my business capability and category is this. So this is one example,
so like the
right?
purpose or usage of that particular application or tool.
Yes. So see, artifact is your work product. Now in work product, you are saying business capability, but how to represent that business capability? So uh, there are three options: catalog, diagram, and the catalog diagram and the metrics, right? So when you say uh, metrics, so metrics will not work because it shows the relationship between two things like organization and your business capability. But you want to define an entity which is business capability. So in that case, the best way is to represent in the artifact catalog. So here you will create a table like I have shown you earlier, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, I see. Yeah.
so you can create a table where you can say ID and business capability and then category. And then you can represent ID is 1 or BC01. Then it is representing accounting and accounting is under the support category. So this is my catalog of business
Oh, oh,
capability.
good.
All right, good. Now, next is the deliverables. Okay, so when we are talking about the deliverables, so deliverables are nothing but what what are the things which you want to uh, which are you want to implement, right? So you want to deliver. So it's a work product which is in the contract and it is approved. Okay, so deliverables. So this is the architectural work product. Okay, work product which is uh, specified and approved. In normal, when we are saying deliverables, so what we are expected to deliver, uh, maybe in the form of document, in the form of you know some reviewed or implementation plan, some reviewed and approved implementation plan, right? So it could be anything. It could be the output of your project. Okay, so it can be your um, reference model. It can be anything, right? So whenever we are talking about the deliverables, so it is formally whatever is your delivery for your project. So it should be formally reviewed. Okay, so first it should be formally reviewed. It should be approved. If it is not reviewed, if it is not approved, so this is not your deliverable. It should be signed off. Signed off by whom? By stakeholders. So when we say the deliverables, so it is mostly in the form of the document. So it is a document. Okay. And that document is the architecture definition document. Okay. For example, we are having the architecture definition document. So here you are having, all the terminologies, you are having business architecture, technology, data, etc., everything into that document. So deliverables are, so these are basically your, um, so these are your document, right? And what it represents the output of the project. Okay, so it represents the output of your project. And once it is completed, right? Once, for example, you implement your solution, everything signed off, then uh, you can archive it, okay? And archived at completion. Now, when I say your deliverables, so where we keep it? So we keep it into architecture repository. Okay? Whatever the standard SharePoints, right? GitHub, or whatever the architecture repository you are using. So you can transition into that architecture repository for your reference model, maybe for your standards. So, so you can, during the transition time, you can keep it into the architecture repository. Do you understand these deliverables? Any question?
Yeah,
You're good?
deliverables are clear.
Okay. So these points we need to know. Now let us understand what is the relationship between artifacts and deliverables. So let us see the relationship between artifacts and deliverables. Right. Do you do you say something about this? Means what could be the relationship between these two? Is artifacts contains the deliverables or deliverable contains the artifacts, or both are separate entities? Any idea? Deliverable contains the artifacts or artifacts contains the deliverables, or both are separate? There may be some other relationship. So deliverable, what you want, whatever the specification, whatever is approved, so that is deliverables. And artifacts are the catalog and diagrams and metrics. Okay, so let me just talk about that. So deliverables contain artifacts. Okay, deliverable contains artifacts, and we manage these artifacts on the basis of their version. For example, you are having a uh, deliverable. So what I'm saying, there is a deliverables, right? And right, so there will be some deliverables, and under that deliverable, we are having the architecture definition document, which is nothing but the artifacts, something like your say business capability map, maybe artifacts which is related to process flow diagram. See, when if I say that I want to deliver this particular project, so in that case, what you are basically saying that uh, right. So 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 you are saying this is my artifacts, right? And on the basis of these artifacts, we are uh, on the basis of these artifacts, right? Right. So right. So my deliverables are architecture definition document. So this is my deliverable. Now, in architecture definition document, you are having business capability artifact, you are having process flow diagram, you are having use case diagram, etc. Okay. So when you are, having this means you are having deliverable, under deliverable, you are having artifacts, right? So this is my deliverable. These are my artifacts. Right? So what you basically uh, deliverables are basically the approved one. So first you create a draft. Okay. So what is draft? Drafts are the documents that are under the development. They haven't gone through any formal review or approval process, right? So first you create a draft document, and then once everything is approved, so those are called approved. So those are the documents that have been reviewed and approved. Okay. So now there is a very commonly asked question that is approved is finalized. So not necessarily. So we don't say that approved is equals to finalized. So that statement is incorrect, because in approved documents, right, in the In the approved documents, you are having different ADM phases, and you may uh, only be changed through the change control and governance process, right? So you have finalized something, right? But that still need a approval. So finalized is not approved. Approved is approved. So the difference between finalized and approved is that when the finalized documents or finalized artifacts or deliverables, so once it is reviewed and it is approved, then it is called approved, right? Otherwise it is finalized, which is not necessarily it is approved. Okay. So this is the relationship between artifacts and deliverables. All right. Now let us talk about few more terminologies, uh, which is basically stakeholders. So next is the stakeholders. So stakeholders are the one those who have interest in the system. Okay? Those who have interest in the system. It can be a person, it can be a team, it can be an organization, it can be a organization unit, right? So whosoever represent the or whosoever is having an interest in a system, so those are called stakeholders. Okay, so for example, you are working on the accounting project, so account department who get impacted with this project, so they are the stakeholders, and whosoever are basically providing the approval also, right? So those are the stakeholders. So for example, you are working on a project, and you are saying, oh, if you make any change into your into this project, you need to inform me, okay? Because our application is using this system. So that person, that team is a stakeholder. Next term which is used is concern. Okay, so concern is basically represents that during development or any functioning for the system, right, such as performance, reliability, security, etc. So those are called concerns. Okay, so this represents the functionality of the system. Okay, like how the system is functioning, development or operations, performance, reliability, security, etc. So those are the concerns, right? So you may uh, so so those functionalities which we are defining, so that should be accepted. by the system. If there is any flaw, any gap in that functionality, so that is a concern. Okay, it can be related to your requirement also or requirement type. Okay, so concern may lead to the definitions of several requirements. Okay, this can lead to several requirements. So those are called the concerns. So these are the two terms which also we need to know, stakeholders and concern. Do you have any question?
No questions.
Okay, so what we will do now, main terminology we have discussed. Now, next step is that we will start from the ADM preliminary phase. So we'll start from here. So tomorrow, because John actually he messaged me that he is tired today. So from tomorrow we will start the preliminary phase, and then
Okay.
we will move to each and every phase of this ADM and understand in very detailed level what we are doing in that, what are the different artifacts, what are the different teams, etc. get involved. Hmm?
Yeah,
So
sure.
that we will discuss tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank, thank you.
Yeah, bye.